and Robbo.
Streaming across the globe, Ben Norris, Rob McKnight and David Robinson.
Ben, Rob and Robbo. News, reviews, entertainment news. It's the Ben, Rob and Robbo. Ben, Rob and Robbo Show. Ben, Rob and Robbo Show.
Welcome to the Ben, Rob and Robbo Show. Here's Rob McKnight.
Good afternoon and welcome to a special edition of the Ben, Rob and Robbo Show. A state in lockdown, that's the grim state of affairs as the COVID-19 epidemic hits Victoria. As I said, this is a special edition of the Ben, Rob and Robbo Show. Later we will be talking to Casey from Big Brother, and Bruno will bring us a very special quiz, and of course we'll have our hot button topics. But to begin, we'll have strong focus on the ongoing situation in Victoria. In fact, today Ben Norris is live on location at Federation Square for us. Ben, the lockdown starts tonight at 11:59. What is the atmosphere like in the city at the moment?
Well, I don't know whether or not you can hear me, but it sounds much busier than it looks. There's not that many people down compared to what the CBD of Melbourne usually looks like. Hopefully, if I can just
We've got you better.
Audio.
Yeah,
okay.
You've done that.
Alrighty, so let me tell you, I have been traipsing all over the city trying to find a location for me to be able to show you what's going on in Melbourne. And only moments ago, there was next to no one around here. Now, as you can see, there's a few people, mainly people working, but also people coming up and saying, what is wrong with you? Why are you in the middle of the CBD doing this when you should be at home?
So, Ben, we also understand that you've witnessed some panic buying happening. We've seen scenes before across the country, but now it's really starting to ramp up in Melbourne. What can you tell us? Well,
last night, close to where I live in the southeastern suburbs of Melbourne, sort of inner, it was up to a 45-minute wait to be able to go into the supermarket, into a Woolworths. So we decided to skip that and go to a Woolworths in Taronga, which is sort of a newer Woolworths, and it's a much bigger store. However, everyone in the store was basically buying up all your spaghetti and your pastas and all of that sort of stuff, and no one was leaving without a full shopping trolley like it was the 80s. Do you remember in the 80s where they used to go shopping and you'd have these big shopping basket, shopping trolley full of stuff? Well, basically that's what everyone looked like as they were trying to stock up, because 6 weeks is a long time and no one knows whether the restrictions could go to a stage 4.
And Ben, was there a lot of security there? Like, we've seen that before, but were there security guards? Were there kind of measures in place to make sure that everything was going to be okay?
Yeah, look, there's more security at the supermarkets. I mean, at the end of the day, there was a couple of the usual marked security, but a lot of the staff just making sure that everyone's following the correct protocols going into the supermarket. If you looked at the toilet paper area, it was completely bare. So, everyone had already taken all of those things. And your items that had been snapped up, when the entire country was in lockdown, those same items have disappeared. So it would show you that Victoria hasn't really learned that it's not necessary to buy in bulk like that.
So, Ben, I was going to ask you also, we've seen some pretty ugly scenes over the last couple of months, especially in supermarkets. How were the customers behaving? Was there a general kind of, understanding and acceptance and goodwill and good manners?
Yeah, I think there was actually, compared to what it was like last time. I must admit, waking up this morning was really quite strange because there is a very somber mood in Melbourne. I think there's a lot of disappointment within the community. And, nearly every single person I've spoken to today has opened up the conversation with how much they're disappointed with Daniel Andrews. And I find that to be really odd because I think the man's just trying to do his best. But certainly there's a lot of people in Victoria feeling let down by the Premier.
That's interesting, and we're going to cover that in just a second. Let me ask you, Ben, it is just after 1 o'clock in Melbourne there. You are at Flinders Street Station, where it's usually a jam-packed scene behind you. That crossing that you're at usually has people going non-stop across from there, and while there are a few people, it pretty much looks dead.
I have to say, I have never in my entire 40 years of living in this city have I ever seen nobody like this in the middle of the day at Flinders Street Station. And the only people that you can basically see around here is, I would say tourists, because I've been asking people what are they doing here as much as people are asking me what am I doing. And I tell you that, this is just, it's bare. It's very strange. It's a really strange sight. It kind of feels like one of those horror movies. Or it's kind of like, have you ever seen the movie Vanilla Sky with Tom Cruise, where he runs down
Yes.
the middle of New York City and it's completely bare? It almost has that somber feel to it. And I have to tell you, I've been asked to move on from pretty much every location I tried to shoot today by security that are, looking after different areas of South Bank, and at the front, of Flinders Street Station. I managed to find this spot. I can barely hear you, but hopefully I'm doing a good job as a budding reporter.
You are doing a great job, Ben, and we appreciate you being down there and working through what is an extraordinary situation. Let's take a moment to bring everyone up to speed with the latest developments. And Victoria has recorded 134 new cases of COVID-19 over the past 24 hours, bringing the total to 2,942. Premier Dan Andrews says 123 of those cases are under investigation. 11 of those cases have been linked to outbreaks. Turning our attention to the controversial lockdown of those housing towers, and the Premier says there has been 75 cases in the 9 towers under lockdown. In some positive news, there have now been over 1 million tests carried out since the pandemic began. Anyone caught breaking the lockdown laws will face a fine of $1,652. Now, in breaking news this afternoon, a Victorian teenager holidaying on the south coast of New South Wales has tested positive for coronavirus. According to the ABC, the teenager and her family were tested for the virus before they left Victoria and given a clean bill of health. When they arrived in Merimbula, they were notified that Victoria Health had made a mistake and the test was positive. A short time ago, in fact right now, the Prime Minister is still holding a press conference about the ongoing crisis. Here's what he said a short time earlier.
This is a global pandemic. There are no guarantees in a global pandemic. You have to deal with the situations that are in front of you. You need to deal with them consistent with your strategy and your plan, and you need to bring the country together to focus every resource on fixing the problem and ensuring that we can keep Australians safe and that we can protect lives and we can protect livelihoods. There has not been a day of complacency when it has come to dealing with this challenge, I can assure you, on behalf of the Australian Government. And through the National Cabinet, we have worked together to address all of these challenges, and that will continue. It's happening in Melbourne now. Of course, there's always the risk it could happen in other cities, and every step is being taken to seek to prevent that wherever possible. But we're all Melburnians now when it comes to the challenges we face. We're all Victorians now because we're all Australians, and that's where the challenge is right now.
Well, although a second wave was expected, authorities are surprised by the number of cases. Here's Federal Health Minister Greg Hunt on A Current Affair last night.
Look, this is more significant than I think anybody had anticipated. The extent of the breach, the scope of the breach from the hotel quarantine and the impact has had a profound effect on Victorians. So what we're facing now is the response that we planned for, but unfortunately it's on a scale that is greater than was expected.
Premier Dan Andrews has faced a grilling over his handling of the crisis, coming to blows with Karl Stefanovic on the Today Show this morning.
Why don't you explain, why don't you just level with people about what happened in quarantine? I mean, exactly what went wrong there. You have to have the answers in order to fix it, so why don't you just tell people?
Well, that's exactly why there's an independent inquiry, Carl, and I don't think that...
No, but you know the answers already. You've fixed the breaches, presumably.
Well, Carl, the most important thing for us to do is to have not politicians investigating themselves, but to have a proper arm's-length process. We've got a retired judge doing that work. That's really important. And what will happen in the weeks and months ahead is that she will do her work, and it'll be without fear or favour, and that report will be there for all of us to look at. We've got to be focused on the future at this time. There'll be accountability. As I said, I'm the leader of the government and I accept responsibility for everything that happens right across our state. That's part of this job. And part of the responsibility I have is to make the tough calls. This is not about popularity, Carl. It's a pandemic. And I'm just not prepared to make the convenient choices or the easier choices when I know that will mean many, many people die.
Is the problem with the quarantine facilities fixed?
Yes, we've got Corrections Victoria staff in there, so the people who run our jails.
So you do know what went wrong with it?
Well, again, Carl, I haven't come on your program to have an argument with you. The key point here is we need an independent process.
And the spat between the two continued with this exchange.
You managed the bushfires, you managed the start of COVID, you did an incredible job, but it's difficult to recall, I think, a bigger political bungle than this. Your critics are calling for a change of leadership. Will you resign?
No, Carl, I'm about staying the course and getting this job done. And look, critics, that's fine. That's entirely a matter for them. Politics is a matter for them too. This is a pandemic, and I'm getting on with doing the job that I have to do.
Ben, this situation is obviously out of control. You mentioned earlier that it sounds like people are starting to turn on Dan Andrews.
Yeah, absolutely. I must admit it was only just a few weeks ago that we were talking about his approval rating being up and Victoria and the rest of Australia, suggesting that maybe his tighter restrictions was a great sign of leadership. But it didn't take much for reports to come out about how he may have dropped the ball for everyone to now be, like, even some of my friends who are the strongest Labor voters are even starting to turn. And I think I'm really disappointed. Am I stupid? But I can't work out. I don't feel that, I don't feel like that towards him. I look at him every day and the only thing I feel like doing is giving him a hug because he looks tired. And I think this man is trying to genuinely do his job. And then, is it just me or does it seem really rude? Or is it an opportunity for Karl Stefanovic to try and prove his worth on the Today Show? I don't know, but I thought that exchange seemed like a lot of bullshit, if you ask me.
Look, I think it's a fair point, Ben. It's really interesting. This is a pandemic. This is a situation no one has dealt with. The simple fact is we know that there was a problem with the way the security firm that was looking after the quarantine situation, it was a big failure. He's now admitted in there, whether he wanted to or not, that the ADF are now patrolling that and taking over the quarantine issues. Some would say they should have done that from the first point. But you know what? Hindsight's a wonderful thing. And when you're in opposition or you're a critic of a government, you can easily pick on what they've done right and wrong. This is unprecedented.
But people want a factual, but this is the thing is at the end of the day, there are so many people at home that want the facts. And Karl Stefanovic, I think, was trying to get a morning TV moment and prove his worth by having that interaction with him. I would have just been gathering the facts. I wouldn't be saying things like, are you going to resign?
Although it is a fair question, Ben, people are asking that question because there are people with Victoria that had the harshest lockdown laws during this whole pandemic. And, it's gone to poo, basically. It's really, it's out of control. And so I think it is a legitimate question from Karl.
In some ways, yes. I guess, that is what people are saying. I just think that, you get an opportunity to talk to a politician on a morning show like that for just such a small period of time. I felt like there were some other questions. And also, it's interesting that Scott Morrison saying, we're all together, we're all Australian and, we are the same as Victoria and all of that sort of stuff. And then, just to see that attack on him on television this morning, I don't know, I just felt really disappointed. It might be just me.
No, I think it's a fair point, and I'd love to hear what our viewers have to say and whether they agree with you or whether it's all fair in love and war. Just use the hashtag BRR Show on Twitter or go to facebook.com/BRR Show. Tonight at midnight, the border between New South Wales and Victoria will close, with Josh Frydenberg saying it will cost the economy $1 billion. Robbo, we've seen cases of people making last-minute dashes to get across the border. In fact, Queensland police have turned away almost 800 Victorians since those borders were closed to anyone from the state. Why do people continually think they're above the law?
Look, It sounds like you're looking for a black and white answer, and I don't think that can be one. I think there are definitely people who are breaking the law, who are doing it for the wrong reasons, who are being super selfish and super awful and not thinking of the greater good. But we've got to understand that there are a lot of people whose livelihoods, whose jobs are across there. They need to get across. It's up to our governments, it's up to our police to have a less of a bureaucratic approach to it and more of an approach of understanding, of difference, of grey areas, of heart. Obviously, we don't know the stats, but a lot of these people that we're seeing here lining up in the vision we're showing you now, maybe they won't, they don't have a legitimate reason to cross the border, but I really think it's just poor form in this kind of unprecedented event that we say that they're all awful, they're all bad, they're all doing the wrong thing. That's where we get into trouble, I think.
Yeah, well, look, with the second wave of COVID-19 in Victoria well and truly underway and the lockdown about to begin in full swing, friend of the show, Georgia Love, took to Twitter yesterday to voice her concerns. She said there's got to be a point where the mental health impacts are weighed up against the health impacts of COVID-19. Well, she was met with an array of responses and not all were positive. In another tweet, she said, "The fact I've received unprecedented hate, including death threats, for bringing up the topic of mental health is, despite everything, the most disturbing part of today. We have such a huge way to go. I'm going to sleep very disheartened tonight. I hope everyone else is going okay." We approached Georgia this morning, and in a statement to the Ben Robbo Show, she says, "I would just like to reiterate that I'm not suggesting one is worse than the other, but I think we need to be talking about the figures from mental health losses during this too. Many businesses won't recover from this, and I think that kind of thing will have a long-term health impact in terms of depression and suicide, and nobody is talking about that." Robbo, her tweet was said to be irresponsible and inappropriate by some. Do you think she has a point, though?
She absolutely has a point. The people who were challenging her are being irresponsible. She brings up a wonderful, important point. I think maybe a month and a half ago, we talked about it on this show, where there's going to be a wave of mental health issues. There's going to be, unfortunately and tragically, a wave of suicides because directly resulted to the pandemic. What she said was absolutely correct. Again, all we're seeing is the trolls. I was about to say Shrek, but Shrek's got a heart. He's a troll, but all of these other ones are trolls. They are awful. And this is a big thing. Hey, everyone, think outside the square for a minute. You know what I mean? So if you've been put out of work by COVID-19, if your parents have been put out, whatever, it's really bloody tough. So yes, we're saying that there's been these examples of going, our great-grandfathers had to go to war, go into trenches, that stuff. We're being asked to stay on the couch. Yes, to a point, that's correct. However, some people can't afford to stay on the couch, both from reasons and mental health reasons. I think Georgia Love was right on the money here, right on the mark, and anyone else who challenged that is just awful. People even made fun of the fact that her mother had died.
Yeah, well, that's just beyond the pale. That's just beyond the pale. Doesn't mean you can't challenge her viewpoint, though. Like when we're dealing with a health epidemic, to suggest that we shouldn't be closing down, or, to have an inference that we shouldn't be closing down, things like that can be challenged. Although she's right that mental health does need to be considered, but that's what our governments need to do. Ben, do you think she has a point? And she obviously does have a point about the mental health impacts that these lockdown and the coronavirus is going to have on the people of Victoria.
Yeah, she's definitely got a point, but I mean, she has to understand that having a particular opinion like that is going to jar with people. Some people are not always going to agree with you. And I understand this. You and Robbo both understand this, Rob. And that is that if you're going to have any sort of an opinion in the media, you're going to have to understand that people may come for you. We've said plenty of things on this show which people have not agreed with us for. And we have to have a really strong backbone to do so. So my concerns with Georgia Love is if she wants to come out and say this and make some valid points that in my heart I agree with, she's going to have to understand on that platform some people aren't going to agree with it. I'm not going to say that, death threats
No, that's
okay,
ridiculous.
Clearly it's not. But I will say that in the last 2 weeks, I followed a story about 2 reality TV contestants who claimed that they had death threats. And I managed to get my hands on those messages that they claimed were death threats. They weren't death threats. They were just nasty tweets. So,
yeah. Georgia Love is a different case, though. If Georgia Love says she's getting death threats, I do believe that.
I'm terrible. I'm from reality TV. When a reality TV contestant says they got death threats, I'm like, show me the receipts.
Yeah, but she's
I
a
feel bad for
journo.
saying
She's a
it.
journalist. She doesn't just say that kind of stuff, and it's out there. The people laughing about her mother. I mean, it's a terrible situation.
Oh, I don't want. I'm not condoning that. I mean, the same thing happened to me. I mean, in 2013, I was voted the second most trolled person in the country after Charlotte Dawson. I received death threats and messages for up to nearly 12 months. So like, I completely
Wow.
understand what it's like to be at the wave of this. But one thing it did teach me, and that is that I need to be very careful about what I say in the media and what I'm willing to stand for.
Look, I'm just devastated that you actually went through that. It's a hard thing. How do you get over that? How do you? Charlotte Dawson took her own life because of that.
Yeah, well, I think that to be honest with you, I think it was a very hard time in my life. It took me a really long time to sort of jumpstart myself and get back to my creative side of my passions and be true to myself again, because it was a heavy burden. But here I am now, and I'm so lucky that the friends and family that are around me have supported me, and people like yourselves, supporting me, and I've got a thicker skin now.
Of course.
Good one. Well, we love you, Ben. You know that. Look, let's move on.
Okay.
And the New South Wales Police Minister reckons that Victoria should chip in for the cost of closing the border. Minister Elliott said he thinks it would be the right thing to do. Around 1,000 police and Defence Force personnel are patrolling the border, including using drones to catch anyone trying to swim across the Murray. Robbo, is this fair enough?
No, it's not. And weirdly, I'm going to agree, ring the bell here, I'm going to agree with Scott Morrison on something. We are all Victorians. Thank you. We are all Victorians. We're all Australians. This kind of... I hate this, and I would challenge you, though, and I'd love to hear both of your thoughts, was that if Daniel Andrews was a Liberal Premier, would this kind of, political fighting happen? Obviously, New South Wales is a Liberal government, Victoria is a Labor government. This is outrageous. Aren't we all on the one team? Aren't we all in the one country? Don't we all want to do the same thing? David Elliott, we've got to remember, is an idiot. And I'll tell you why he's an idiot. He was the minister, so he's police and emergency services. He was the minister that when the country was literally burning, he went for a little holiday over to Europe and then got called back. Where's our emergency services minister? Shouldn't he be here? Yes, he should be here. So this guy's got no credibility. He's an absolute idiot. He then came back. He's obviously got something on Gladys Berejiklian, because how he wasn't fired for that is outrageous. That was his portfolio and he wasn't here. Again, he's just inciting more rubbish. We're all in this together. Yes, there's a cost to New South Wales. Hey, buddy, there's a cost to everyone. Let's help each other out. Remember how we're all on the one team, all the one shoulder to the grindstone, you piece of absolute political rubbish.
Ben, do you think if the roles were reversed and New South Wales was going through this lockdown and this closing of the borders, that Victoria would demand that New South Wales help foot the bill?
Oh, look, I'm not interested in a hypothetical, to be honest with you. I think that, like any place that you work, the way in which people start to react comes from the top. And our politicians are technically the top, and they should be setting the precedents for how we behave. And, some of the politicians' behaviour at this particular point isn't justified, it isn't warranted. And it makes me feel sad, because I think that people will be emulating that. To be honest with you, I've faced a lot of people over my life saying they disagree with my opinion. So sorry, I am trying to dodge something. Can I get back to you in just 1 second?
I want to know what you're trying to dodge, but yes, okay.
Yeah, me too. Oh.
I wonder what's going on there. That's the dangers of reporting live on location, especially during a pandemic. Interesting, Robbo, what Ben found, because yesterday when we decided to do this, I checked into all the permits around the city of Victoria, and with Ben's setup, he actually doesn't need a permit, and he's under the City of Melbourne guidelines. He's absolutely free to be recording, but he has been stopped by a lot of people, and one said to him, I don't give an F about your permits. This is unprecedented times. Yes, that's true. But Ben is social distancing. He's doing everything right, and he's also reporting on the scene for legitimate purposes. So this is where things, to me, start to get out of control when it's like the police in America. A little bit of power, anyone thinks they can just change the rules.
Yeah, well, look, to be honest, I make this about this moment, but as you know, I've reported live from a lot of different scenes, and it's something that you get either in a pandemic or not a pandemic. You will get one security guard who will come up and say, you can't film here, and then another one might come along at the same time and go, no, they're fine. It's always been this kind of disparity between what you can and what you can't do. It is really actually quite difficult, especially when you're reporting on news. But, you know, this kind of thing happens. This is nothing new. What we're seeing with Ben today is not very good, but it also comes down to, really, a communication problem between, you know, the people who actually own the site or govern the site to the people who they employ. I just think it's a breakdown of that. Many times I have had a fight moments before we're on air with a security guard or a personnel and going, well, it's happening now, because secretly I'll tell you right now, it would be great TV to be pulled off air. You know what, weirdly I never got to do it, but I would love to have security pull me off air.
If he was going to get pulled off air, I wanted to take the shot.
That's right. That's good telly. But yeah, it's a massive problem, and it's been happening for ages. But you know, what can you do? You just keep reporting, and you just hope that they pull you off live on. I'm going to reword that. You hope that they hope you stop.
A couple breaks out live on air. Look, we will get back to Ben shortly, and he will be updating us throughout the show. So stay with us. There are 10 and a half hours until the lockdown kicks in. We've got our little timer going there live. If you're watching this on delay, obviously that time's not going to be right. Robbo, let's move on. And not often pictures of front yards are funny, but we found one. A Twitter user has uploaded a picture of his lawn that shows his neighbour having just mowed his section. Now, we're not talking a massive field here. It's just that, what you're seeing there. The man says he will wait for his grass to grow and then do the same. Robbo, would you do this?
You know, I wouldn't. Like, it's such a little patch there. I love mowing lawns, by the way, and that is no joke. I'm not making that up. I love mowing lawns. It's basically the only kind of hard labour that I like to do. Come on, you're looking at that. We've got to think that maybe there's some fighting that's happened beforehand, because that is like, if we were to open up an Oxford dictionary, surely that will be a picture in there, the very definition of passive aggressive. Surely, like, to go, they even lined it right up to the pole, to the pipe. Oh my God!
Look, he's doing his section now. Look, this is the problem. You don't know the history of this, and when I mow the lawn, I would be happy, but I also don't know if it's my place to mow someone else's lawn. You know, like there is a definitive line there where the block ends, and you know where each block starts. But
his yard is so tiny.
What if the guy next door wants a certain length, is cultivating it, is trying to put fertilizer down or something like that? You actually don't know what the neighbour should be trying to do. So while you could get in trouble for mowing the lawn.
Look, you could. I'm going to say to you, there's never a moment when you shouldn't mow the lawn. I think the strip there is so bloody small. The guy's come out and said that he's happy to play this game now, so clearly he isn't too worried about it. And they live in close quarters. So we're not talking about, like, wonderful houses in Australia where we've got a bit of space. We're talking about that, like, wouldn't you do it? And then if you got in trouble, you wouldn't do it again, but you would do it. And I'm assuming that he didn't get in trouble because the guy put it on, social media, so he thought it was funny. It would be. I mean, you're a mower yourself, aren't you, Rob?
I am.
Yep. So you'd know that's two goes. You push it forward.
It's nothing. But and you never know if there's been a dispute between these two, and he's just thought, I'm not doing that for him. You don't know. There's always history. Hey, look, let me bring this one to you. A Central Queensland driver pulled over for speeding has had the best excuse in the book. The 27-year-old was speeding to a hospital because he believed he'd just been bitten by a brown snake whilst driving. Let's have a look at the moment the police pulled him over.
I think it's a bit to me. It was in the car with me.
Where did you come from?
I was coming from Billow. Like, you can feel my heart, mate.
You found a snake in your car?
There was a brown, it's in the back of the tray, mate.
Yeah. Oh, that one.
Yeah, that bloody one.
He said the snake wrapped around his legs and started striking at the driver's seat. Using his seatbelt and a work knife, he was able to fight off and kill the snake while trying to stop the car safely. Thankfully, he wasn't bitten, but understandably was in a state of shock. Queensland Police have confirmed that he was not issued a speeding fine. Robbo, what I would have loved is for him to be bit in the groin and say to the police officer, "Can you suck the poison out?"
Oh my God. Sorry, that whole moment just in slow-mo for me because I thought surely Rob McKnight is going to not ask me about sucking poison out. You did, and I love you for it. Look, this is very Australian. What a thing to endure. Like, you know, sometimes when you're driving, you see a spider and you think, oh my God, my life's going to end. But to have a snake in there would be just something else. We've got to remember, though, this isn't the most Australian thing that's ever happened. There was a story a few years ago. A guy was on a work site. He went into the Portaloo and a redback bit him on his berries, if we could say that.
So they were poison berries.
That's terrible. But that happened. It was front page on the Daily Telegraph. An amazing story. Obviously not for Mr. and Mrs. Scrotum there, but this is Australian. But we've had form in this area before.
Look, thank you, Robbo. We're about to get some news headlines, but before we do that, I want to go back to Melbourne with our esteemed colleague, Ben Norris. Ben, how are things? Is it still quiet there, or has it picked up during the lunchtime rush?
This is definitely not a lunchtime rush. Still not very many people going through. Not a lot of people catching public transport today. You might even notice the trams, the iconic Melbourne trams going past, and they're empty. So it's actually really strange. Just to give you an insight into what was going on, was that as the show started, a homeless person came and set up next to me to have a sleep. Now, I've got about $3,000 worth of camera equipment here that I don't need because I'm doing this off my phone now. But they were going through my bag while I was trying to talk.
No.
And then they were then they were upset about me recording where I was because apparently with a few extra swear words, some of which I'd never even heard before.
That's saying something.
It appeared that I may have been filming in their bedroom. But anyway, it was
Robbo,
very...
that's
it was
funny.
Very
I know
stressful.
that, Robbo, we know the homeless state is a whole thing, but in this context, that is funny.
Look, I think I sometimes turn to humour when I'm really distressed. And, today, I don't know whether or not I look as terrible as I feel right now, but I feel pretty terrible being here. But, I guess my mum always told me to have a sense of humour about things, so...
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Well, Ben, we're going to leave you for the moment. We're going to come back to you throughout the program so that we can get an update on what's happening as you gather some information and get an update on what's happening with COVID-19 in Victoria as the lockdown comes to get underway in just under 10 hours and 26 minutes. But for now, let's get the very latest news headlines from the Ticker Newsroom.
Rob, thank you. Let's check some of the top stories from Ticker today. Melburnians facing a really difficult 6 weeks ahead. The city's 5 million residents head back into lockdown tonight at midnight. COVID-19 cases surging as well. It comes as the New South Wales-Victoria border closes, and we're now hearing from the Victorian Premier. He says he will not resign. Banks are set to give borrowers a helping hand by extending a 6-month repayment holiday by another 4 months. The pledge of support will have banks shoulder the economic burden of the crisis through Christmas, well into 2021 as well. Buy now, pay later giant Afterpay is doing well too. The company has amassed almost 10 million active users worldwide. Will now raise more than $1 billion as it pushes ahead with its international expansion plans. Kanye West and Donald Trump's lawyer will be among the recipients of more than $521 billion in government aid. The US government's handing out the money to help struggling businesses, but there's a lot of people wondering about those who are actually going to receive it. Samsung's flagged a 23% rise in second quarter operating profits, beating analysts' estimates as well. The boost to sales comes from an increase in solid chip sales to data centres. Now the weather for today, the remainder of today, the sun will come out today, hopefully tomorrow too for Melbourne, 15 degrees. Sydney, some showers and 18 for those escaping Melbourne. Brisbane at 22 degrees, Perth 17 and Adelaide a sunny and cloudy fine top of 14 degrees. Check the local markets now. The ASX headed south at the open, straight away off obviously some pretty pessimistic news out of Victoria about the length of the delay, and also if you're investing in bank stocks, not great for investors there either, who now have another 4 months to wait until perhaps some dividends and profits return. Bad news overseas. The Dow headed south too, as did most of the markets in the US. The one place to go for some positivity was China, where local stocks and retail investors have been out on the surge too. That is the latest from Ticker. I'm Aaron Young. Back now to the Ben, Rob and Robbo show.
Thank you, sir. We'll see you tomorrow, of course. It was an eviction that came down to the wire last night as one housemate risked it all to get rid of her rival. This is how it played out as Casey was eliminated from the Big Brother house.
You received 2 votes. Kieran, you also received 2 votes, which means we have a tie. In the event of a tie, as per the rules of the game, the final decision passes to the winner of Big Brother's last challenge. Sophie, to the diary room. The 14th housemate to be evicted from the Big Brother house is Casey.
Wow, and Casey joins us now. Casey, it's a little hard not to take that personally.
No, it's definitely not hard to take it personally. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, like, you hear the words, it's a game thrown around so much. So I think if you didn't think it was a game and you took it personally, you wouldn't get far.
Although it was interesting, there was a classic moment last night where, I did love this, you actually called Sophie out and you said, what was the terminology used? You said it's pretty weak.
Cop-out?
Cop-out, thank you. That was the term you used. Why was it a cop-out?
I just didn't like frills. Like, I just don't like, people like sugarcoating things for me. Like, I just think it's easy to just say what you think. I think that's why so much during the show you see me just like probably not playing the game the best, because I'm just like kind of speaking my mind, which I always do. Like, I just wanted her to just be like, look, I put you up there because I feel like I don't like you or whatever.
There's 2 things about that. You quite often spoke your mind. You confronted Kieran about the way he was playing the game, and his response actually, I felt, changed the way you were voting and choosing not to vote for him. This was early on in the series. You confronted Sophie about that. So you certainly weren't a deceptive player until last night, but we'll get to that. So you played a pretty honest game, and do you think that was the downfall?
I think I just played it as, like, I've never watched Big Brother before. Like, that's the thing. So, and they told me not to watch it going in. So I didn't really know how to play it. So I just kind of went in there and I was like, I'll just be myself and kind of see what happens. So maybe that's why it came across so honest, because I don't think I could really try and be anything but myself, to be honest. I think it would be exhausting to spend 5 weeks trying to be something you're not.
Absolutely. Why was there such a rivalry between yourself and Sophie?
I don't think it's like a massive rivalry. I honestly just think there's 2 sides of the coin. There was obviously like, it was just like, one team against the other. It's just like friendly fire type of vibes.
Okay. We really saw you playing the game last night with Sarah as you went. You made it a mission. I am going to get Sarah on side. I think you came bloody close to turning her vote.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely I actually really liked Sarah. Like, I always really got along with Sarah. But yeah, when I realised that she was kind of like the swing vote and probably could change, my mission in the house, like I did really try and get her around, but just missed out. But because I watched it back and I saw why she voted me out, and she was like, if Casey gets to the final 3, I think she's going to win. So, I commend her for getting me out while she could then.
So it was all strategy.
Yeah.
Hey, obviously, COVID-19 is wreaking havoc with Big Brother this year. We saw that you guys had to deal with it in the house while you were filming and go on that suspension of the game for 48 hours. But now with the live finale and Victoria being in lockdown, what are you hearing about the way the new lockdown laws in Victoria will affect the finale?
Well, I know that Daniel and Sarah are already in Melbourne, but I do know that so far Zoe and Laura haven't been able to get through, but I think they're working on it. And like from what I've heard, I think everyone else should be able to make it. So hopefully we can have everyone there for like the live final.
So, sorry, does that mean the finale's in Melbourne or Sydney?
It's in Sydney.
Right. So Daniel and Sarah have got out of Melbourne and into Sydney?
Yeah. I believe they got there yesterday morning.
Oh, that's great news. So it's possible we'll have people like Sophie on Zoom if she can't get out.
Yeah, well, Sophie's in Darwin, so I think she should be okay.
Right.
Yeah, I believe it's only the Victorian people that might be affected. So I think it's just Zoe and Laura.
And are you looking forward to the finale? It's going to be bittersweet, isn't it? Because you're going to see what could have been with you up for that final part being chosen by the Australian public. But it will obviously be good to get together with everyone again.
Yeah, I'm definitely really excited to see everyone again. Like, you know, you chat to a few of them out of the house and you're just like, oh, God, I actually just miss you so much. Like, even Kieran. Like, I miss Kieran. I never thought I'd say that. I never thought I'd
destroy Brussels sprouts for you.
Yeah. He really, really ruined a lot of things for me.
One of the things that was really crazy is in your final episodes, when Xavier was eliminated, we suddenly discovered you two had this tight bond. We didn't see that on the show until the very end.
Yeah, I know. I was when the show first started and me and Xav saw how little airtime we were getting. We were joking behind the corner and we were like, geez, it's going to get to like our Xavier's eviction episode and they're just going to slap together our friendship and people are going to be like, what, are they friends? And honestly, the influx of messages I got the night Xavier was evicted, everyone was like, I didn't even know you were friends. And it was so funny because in the house, I honest to God think people would say that apart from Sophie and Chad, like me and Xav probably had the tightest friendship, we were like the closest two in there. So it's just...
I thought you were going to drop a romance clanger then.
No. I have a boyfriend and Xav has a girlfriend. It's nothing like that.
Although there was another possible romance brewing in the Big Brother house. Were you around when Kieran and Hannah had the infamous pash-off?
Do you know what? I actually wasn't there. I was in the bedroom. I wake up really early and I also go to bed really early. So this happened like late at night. I missed it. I woke up in the morning, heard about this kiss and I was like, I'm sorry. What? Like, what do you mean they kissed?
And we didn't see it. Good content.
Yeah, I know. Look, I'm sure someone can probably leak it. Like, I don't know if I'd even want to watch it, if I'm honest.
Well, Casey, you were brilliant in the house. We thank you for coming on the Ben, Rob and Robbo show today.
Thank you for having me.
It's the random life shot of the day. Where are you going today? You never know where you'll end up with the random life shot of the day.
Today we're taking you to Melbourne, where a stage 3 lockdown is about to begin at midnight tonight. The city is experiencing a sunny day today with a top of 16 degrees after a low of 7. This shot is courtesy of Platinum Apartments in the city. Nice shot too. All right, let's take a look at some feedback coming through to the Ben, Rob and Robbo show. Andrew says there were lots of people at bars and restaurants last night on Victoria Street. Last drinks before the lockdown, indeed. I can't say I would have been going out. Penny says, I agree, Ben. Take the political stuff out of it. We just have to get through this. Blame gets us nowhere. Mary says, it's a scary time for everyone. If anyone is struggling, there is help out there. Book an appointment with a GP and seek help. Couldn't agree more, Mary. Very good words. Thank you for that. Darren says, I fully support Daniel Andrews. You can't blame him for the heads. that have socially distanced through all of this, that haven't socially distanced through all of this. Amanda says the second wave has shown how important training and understanding procedures is. Absolutely. And Nicole says borders should have been closed to school holidays when outbreaks started to stop the risk of it coming over the border. And look, that is certainly, Robbo, the stance Queensland has taken, so you can't blame Queensland for doing that, really, can you?
No, you can't. Everyone's going to be kind of in the panic mode at the moment, especially politicians, Rob, because you've got to remember they live and die by if people like them or not. So everyone around the country is looking at Dan Andrews and going, oh, we don't want that. So they're going to start kind of preempting the mistakes that he made. Again, I think I want to stress that the mistakes he made, like you said earlier in the show, Rob, this is unprecedented. We're kind of swimming in murky water here and we don't know what we're doing, but they're trying their best. But yeah, I really think that all premiers and chief ministers around the country will be very, very careful from now on.
And look, the one thing I would say is, yes, there were some mistakes made with quarantine, although you would expect security guards to do their jobs, not, have sex with the people in quarantine. But,
Correct.
We've seen opposition politicians of the Andrews government saying, open up, let's get everyone out there, let's get back to work. And I said to you at the time when we talked about this issue that they won't be taking responsibility if it flares up again, and it's the kind of politics I hate, I've got to say.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. They will throw the blame everywhere else except for themselves. So when they say we should have opened up, then when Dan Andrews does open up, maybe earlier as an example, they will then say, well, it was his fault. But it's so murky. And you know what? Wouldn't it be nice to have politicians who had, I don't know, what's the word? Maturity, understanding, compassion.
Integrity.
Sorry, I'm certainly not describing a politician. Yeah, integrity. Sorry, these are all boxes that no Australia can tick at the moment. But anyway.
Absolutely. Well, Robbo, it's hump day, which means we're joined by Bruno Boucher for my favourite segment each week. Bruno, what are you throwing at us today?
Guys, I'm just so excited. I can't even believe it. Guys, in a few months' time, Kanye West is going to be the president of the United States. I haven't even been able to sleep. How good is this?
You're excited by this one, aren't you?
Oh, I adore Kanye West. And I just love, just when you thought politics was kind of all right, Trump's in, this is as crazy as it gets, Kanye enters the ring. This is fantastic. The debates are going to be great. It's going to go off. And, I had a little game which I thought, man, Ben and we mustn't mention his name. My apologies. But I thought Rob and Robbo
he's doing a fabulous job today.
Would be so fantastic at doing, right? Which is basically, I spent last night going through quotes and books and tweets of things that Trump had said and things that Kanye West had said. And I just wondered, if I throw them at you, will you be successful in telling me, is it Trump or is it Kanye? What do you reckon?
I'm up for it.
I'm up for it, but I'm not confident whatsoever.
Oh, no.
All right. Well, look, let's get right into it, guys.
Although,
number one.
Say, Bruno, I'm getting a piece of paper so I can keep track of who gets the most points. Not that I'm competitive or anything.
And Bruno,
all right, let's get
Bruno, are you coming to us from, I don't know, the Showgirls area? Nice.
Oh, I'm just about to take the stage in Brokeback Mountain, the musical.
Well, Carlotta's joining us tomorrow. Maybe
you got
he's
the
from
jacket
her
on right.
location.
What's that?
Oh, it doesn't matter. All right, give us the game.
Sorry.
All right,
Sorry,
guys, let's jump right into number one. The quote here is, "Email is for wimps." Email is for wimps.
Kanye.
Who said that?
Kanye.
I'm going for
Robbo,
Trump
Kanye.
because Trump loves Twitter.
Right. Well, the winner here, guys, it's you, Rob. Trump did say it. Email is for wimps. Kanye,
Excellent.
obviously, big fan of the emails. Trump, not so much.
Damn it.
So that's
All right.
1 point for Rob.
Congratulations,
Yeah. So-
guys. Moving on to number two. Yes, McDonald's is my favorite restaurant. Who would have said that? Trump or Kanye?
For the trick question, I want to say Trump, No, Trump likes KFC. I'm going to go Kanye.
I was going Kanye too, exactly that, because Trump loves KFC.
Guys, you did well with your knowledge. It's Kanye West. Having said that, I have heard that that Trump will go a Big Mac. I heard that he's quite into the Big Mac.
And you just did a list of the top burgers, didn't you? And
Of the top burgers, in which Big Mac came out mid-tier. If anyone was wanting to know,
Agreed,
guys.
Agreed on that.
So far, you guys are pretty even. Let's move on to number 3.
My way, so it's not even at all. But I'm not keeping score.
Guys, number 3. Inspired by my visit to IKEA today, really amazing company.
Trump.
Who was really
Robbo,
inspired by their visit to IKEA today?
Trump.
I'm going Kanye. There's no way Trump's going to IKEA.
You don't reckon he's walked into an IKEA and had something to say about it? He was inspired by it? Correct. Robbo? No?
I said Trump, but now he says amazing, and you know how Trump likes to say amazing, you know, like that was
it's the most fabulous furniture store that's ever been built. The most fantastic. Yeah, you are right, Rob.
Damn it.
You got it. It was Kanye West.
Jeez, Robbo, I don't know how many more questions we've got, but you need to catch up, buddy.
Yeah. Really think this through. I don't think you're putting any effort into your answers there, Robbo. Let's get into it, all right? Give this one some thought. I'm an ice cream fan from way back. Who said I'm an ice cream fan from way back? Think it through.
You know what? This is what is wonderful about this segment, Bruno, is that it's very hard between the idiot and the idiot. And that's what makes it so wonderful. I don't...
Well, I'm going to go Trump on this because the phrasing is very Trump. I'm an ice cream fan from way back.
It is a very Trump thing to say. And do you remember there was a report that came out about a year or so ago that said that when he had a meeting with heads of governments, everyone had 1 scoop of ice cream for dessert, but he had 2. So I think, that's interesting. Maybe it's Trump. Robbo, what are we locking in?
Robbo, big go
Kanye.
with what you were going to go. You saw a preview.
Kanye. Yeah, I'm locking Kanye.
Rob, it's all yours. In fact, it was Trump.
Hold on
Congratulations.
A minute. Rob's in the control room.
No,
there.
I promise you. Abby put these together. Amanda put them up. I have not looked. I hand on heart, have not looked.
Look,
Bruno?
He did put his hand on his heart. He's got to be telling the truth.
Oh, well.
No one's ever lied that's put their hand on the heart. So,
No,
guys,
I'm telling you,
off.
honestly, I have not looked. I purposely didn't look. Because I love
All right.
things like this.
Okay, let's move on to the next one. For anyone that has money, they know the first rule is to use other people's money. So the obvious thought here is, well, it's got to be Trump, right? That's the obvious thought.
I'm going to go Kanye on this one.
Look, my first thought was Trump. I feel like Bruno's throwing a curveball and leading us towards Kanye, but my first thought was Trump.
Okay. Hey, guess who's back?
Hey!
Congratulations.
And you
It's
know
our boy
what?
Kanye, the
He was really
46th
talking
president.
about Kim's money, wasn't he?
He must have been, surely. Hey,
done,
let's see
Robbo.
if he keeps this winning streak going, all right? I've never seen a thin person drinking Diet Coke.
Oh,
Some thin person.
I reckon
Trump.
I know who this is.
Trump.
You do?
I'm going Kanye.
Damn it. I think Trump. Come on, Bruno.
Guess what?
Throw
Guess
us a
what?
bone.
It's Trump. Congratulations.
Yeah!
Robbo's back.
Woo! He's back in the game.
Well, I think we should
Guys,
stop the
we've
game
only
there.
got 2 more left.
We better hurry
We've
up.
only
We
got
are
2
running
more
out of
left.
time and we've got to get to Benny Boy. But yes, give us our two more.
Decider.
Guys, don't sleep any more than you have to. I sleep about 4 hours a night. It gives me a competitive edge. Is it Trump or is it Kanye getting the competitive edge?
I'm going Trump.
Trump?
I'm going to go Kanye, actually, 'cause that was where my heart was going.
Ah, boy, it was Trump.
Yeah, Trump doesn't sleep at night. Trump stays up watching all the shows.
Yeah. And guys, the final one. This is for the honour. Whoever gets this one wins it all. All right,
Well,
let's
that's
go.
not true. My scorecard says that I'm winning it all, but anyway.
Cut his mic, Amanda. Cut his mic.
Guys, tweeting is legal. Who said that? That tweeting is legal.
These are so hard because they're. Oh.
I'm going Trump.
Yeah,
Because
you reckon that?
I feel like it would have been when he was pressured about the fact he's tweeted a lot of presidential announcements.
Right, and he goes, tweeting's legal. Last time I checked, tweeting is legal.
Big Robbo.
West, the idiot. The other idiot.
Yep, Robbo, you're correct, and you've won it all.
Yeah!
It was Kanye
Well,
West.
my scorecard says 5-4, so you didn't win it all.
Robbo, congratulations. The winner of Trump or Kanye, who said it? It is you, Robbo. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you, Bruno. You're a good man. Thank you. But that was really hard because, like I said, they're both idiots, right? So when you were putting together this segment, surely that was hard to try and guess the other because what they say is rubbish.
Yeah, the best ones that I got was actually from Trump's book, The Art of the Deal. This was, he was talking about ice cream in it, and he was talking about, he did talk about McDonald's, but the one that we picked there was a Kanye tweet. Kanye, great on Twitter. Throw him a follow, would you? He needs every follow he can get.
Yeah, and just really quickly, Bruno, did in The Art of the Deal, did he mention Jeffrey Epstein?
Oh, jeez. Not that I can remember.
Photos. Yeah, fair. Yeah, I can understand. Sorry, Bruno. Love it.
Thanks,
Enjoy the show.
guys.
You're about to go on stage.
Once
Break a
again.
leg. Break a leg, Bruno.
Thank you. Here I go.
What a legend. I love that
Oh,
man. He's
yes.
so good. Hey,
He
look,
is brilliant.
before we head off, let's bring you up to speed with what's happening in the world of COVID-19. And we heard Prime Minister Scott Morrison earlier speaking to the nation. And one thing to come out of that was his proposition to reduce the number of returning travellers allowed to Australia. This is an effort to further reduce the burden on states and territories administrating hotel quarantine. He's set to bring that proposal to the National Cabinet on Friday. To recap more of that press conference, Scott Morrison indicated that it would be some time yet before the travel bubble across the Tasman could be secured with New Zealand. He also spoke about a further phase of JobKeeper payments past September. He didn't say how much, but assured that people would continue to be supported. Given the financial and emotional blow that the aged care industry has undergone through COVID, he also announced that the government would be adding an additional 6,100 in-home aged care places, meaning a total of 50,000 government-supported aged care places at a total cost of $3 billion. Robbo, we were hoping to have across to Ben just before we go. He's not there at the moment, but lots to come out of that press conference with Scott Morrison, which was still going while we were on air.
There really is heaps. And like I said earlier in the show, I think it's really nice that he is kind of forging that connection, that connectivity. We're all in this together. I thought that was a really good, strong way of showing leadership there. We are one country. We are not Europe. We're not, a lot of different countries in the one kind of continent. We are one. And I think, we've said this for years, haven't we? Even with that song, We Are One. Now it's time to put that into actual, action. Again, it worries me, and I think that you agree, and tell me if you don't, but when we've got politicians in this time of it's all affecting us to then politicize it and to change it up and to do different things, that's why I think Scott Morrison is on the money here. We are all Victorians. We are all Melburnians at this moment, because if we're not, then who are we? What are we?
Absolutely.
What do we stand for? It's really awful. So, our thoughts and prayers are with everyone who is in lockdown. We know it's awful, and we stand by you. We support you. We're here for you. That's all we can say.
I can see Ben's there, mate. So let's cross to Ben very quickly as we wrap up the show. Ben, let's get a quick update. Where are you and what's going on?
Well, I'm under a bridge. I don't know how I got here in my life, but this is where I am. I did get moved on from where I was at the cathedral. There was just too much going on there. I think it was more of a security issue than anything to do with COVID. Anyway, it's very, very empty where I am. There's not a lot of people around. So I I have nothing much more to say.
Where are you? You travelled out to the boondocks.
No, well, no. If I can turn around, I don't know if you can see back, but I'm literally underneath the city. Like you can see Federation Square is here.
Ah, yes.
You can see over there is where Flinders Street Station is. You can see back over towards Crown Casino. But anyway, look, I had to get away from where I was. But this has been a bit of a dog's breakfast. But thank you for checking in on me.
No, you've done a great job, and under trying circumstances. It's hard, Ben. When you're on the road reporting, it's hard, and nobody wants you to do your job. It's a very difficult situation, but you have done a great, great job. That brings us to the end of the show. Ben, thank you for your reporting today.
Thank you, Ben. Well
we will
done.
certainly try to have you on location tomorrow as well. You did very, very well. Robbo, thank you for your input. Now stay with Tika for the very latest as the COVID crisis continues. There is just under 10 hours until it all kicks off those restrictions. We'll see you tomorrow on the Ben, Rob and Robbo Show.
It's the Ben, Rob and Robbo, Ben, Rob and Robbo, Ben, Rob and Robbo Show.